Lisa Martinez stood at her station on the bridge of the UES Defiance. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panels as red warning lights flashed all around her. The ship's alarm was making a loud, steady noise that filled the air. Captain Jake Sullivan gripped his chair tightly as he stared at the main screen. "How many ships?" he asked in a tight voice. Lisa checked her readings again, hoping she had made a mistake. She had not. 500 ships, Captain. All of them are Kythera Dominion vessels. They just came out of hyperspace and they're surrounding us. The bridge crew went quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. The Kythera were the most feared race in the galaxy. They had conquered 47 different species over the past 1,000 years. Their ships were fast, their weapons were deadly, and they never showed mercy to anyone who stood in their way. Lieutenant Dan Cooper at the communications station looked up from his panel. "Captain, we're getting a message from the lead ship. It's Admiral Vexthul himself." Jake nodded slowly. "Put it on screen." The main display changed to show a creature that looked like a nightmare come to life. Admiral Vexthul was 8 feet tall with thick gray skin that looked like armor plating. His head was shaped like a triangle, with 3 yellow eyes that glowed in the dark. Sharp teeth filled his mouth, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Human vessel," the alien said. "You are trapped. Your pathetic little ship cannot escape. We know you have information about your homeworld, Earth. Give us the location and we will kill you quickly. Refuse and we will take our time." Jake stood up from his captain's chair. His face was calm, but Lisa could see the anger in his eyes. "This is Captain Jake Sullivan of the United Earth Space Navy. We don't negotiate with murderers." The alien admiral made a sound that might have been laughter. Brave words from someone who is about to die. "You humans are all the same. You think you are special, but you are just another weak species waiting to be conquered." "We'll see about that," Jake said, and cut the connection. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Jake turned to his crew. "Options, people. How do we get out of this?" The navigation officer, a young woman named Beth Clark, shook her head. "They're jamming our jump drives, Captain. We can't escape to hyperspace. Weapons?" Jake asked. The weapons officer, Tony Rivers, looked grim. "We have enough firepower to maybe take out 3 or 4 of their ships before they destroy us. Against 500, we don't stand a chance." Lisa continued to work at her station, running calculations and checking sensor readings. Something was different about this attack. The Kythera usually sent smaller fleets to attack human colonies. Why would they bring so many ships to capture one exploration vessel? "Captain," she said, "I think this is more than just a random encounter." "They knew we would be here," Jake frowned. "What do you mean?" "Look at their formation," Lisa said, pointing to the tactical display. "They're not just surrounding us. They're positioned to block every escape route, including ones we haven't even thought of yet. Someone told them exactly where to find us." The captain walked over to her station and looked at the display. Lisa was right. The alien ships were positioned too perfectly. This was a carefully planned trap. "A spy," Jake said quietly. "Someone in Earth Command is working with the Kythera." Before anyone could respond, the ship shook as the alien vessels moved closer. Their weapons were not firing yet, but the energy from their engines was enough to make the Defiance tremble. Dan looked up from his station again. "Captain, Admiral Vexthul is demanding an answer. He says we have 5 minutes to surrender or he'll start shooting." Lisa stared at the tactical display, watching the enemy ships close in around them. 500 to 1. Any reasonable person would surrender and hope for a quick death. But something inside her was starting to wake up, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. She touched a small device that hung on a chain around her neck, hidden under her uniform. The device was warm against her fingers, and for just a moment she could feel power flowing through it. Ancient power that had been waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. "Captain," she said, turning to face Jake, "I have an idea, but you're not going to like it." At this point, "I'll listen to anything," Jake replied. Lisa took a deep breath. "Let me talk to them. I want to make a deal." Jake stared at her. "A deal? Lisa, these creatures don't make deals. They conquer and destroy. That's all they know how to do." "Trust me," Lisa said. Her voice was calm, but there was something in her eyes that Jake had never seen before. Something that looked almost dangerous. "I know what I'm doing." The captain studied her face for a long moment. Lisa Martinez had been his tactical officer for 3 years. She was smart, reliable, and had never let him down. But right now she looked different somehow, like she was carrying a secret that could change everything. "What kind of deal?" he asked. "Single combat," Lisa said. "Their best warrior against me. Winner takes all." The entire bridge crew turned to stare at her. Tony Rivers laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Lisa, have you lost your mind? You're 5 feet 6 inches tall and weigh maybe 130 pounds. A Cathara warrior would tear you apart." Lisa smiled, and for some reason that smile made everyone on the bridge feel very uncomfortable. Maybe. Or maybe I'm not exactly what I appear to be. Before anyone could ask what she meant, the ship shook again. This time it was from weapon fire. The Kithra were getting impatient. "Decision time, Captain," Lisa said. "Let me make the call or watch your crew die in the next few minutes." Jake looked around at his bridge crew. These were good people, and they deserved better than dying in a hopeless fight against impossible odds. He had no idea what Lisa was planning, but she was the smartest person on his ship. If she thought she had a chance, maybe she did. "Do it," he said. Lisa nodded and opened a channel to the alien fleet. When she spoke, her voice was steady and strong. "Admiral Vexthal, this is Lieutenant Commander Lisa Martinez. I have a counter-proposal for you." The sound that came from the Kithara fleet was like the roar of 500 angry beasts. Admiral Vexthal's laughter echoed across the communication channels, and Lisa could hear other alien voices joining in. They thought she was making a joke. "A human wants to make a deal with us?" Vexthal said when the laughter died down. "This is amusing. Speak, little creature. What foolish words do you have for us before you die?" Lisa stood straighter at her station. Everyone on the bridge was watching her, waiting to see what she would say. Captain Jake Sullivan had his hand on his weapon, ready to fight when the talking was over. But Lisa looked calm, like she was discussing the weather instead of facing certain death. "I challenge your strongest warrior to single combat," she said clearly. "If your champion wins, I will personally give you the exact location of Earth and every human colony in this sector. If I win, your fleet leaves this system and never returns." The silence that followed was so complete that Lisa could hear the humming of the ship's engines. Even the Kithara had stopped laughing. On the main screen, Admiral Vexthal's 3 eyes were staring directly at her. "You mock us," he said, and his voice was deadly quiet now. "I never mock warriors," Lisa replied. "I'm offering you the chance to avoid an embarrassing defeat." The alien admiral's roar of rage was so loud that the speakers on the bridge crackled. "You dare threaten us? You pathetic little human. We have conquered entire star systems. We have destroyed fleets 1,000 times larger than your single ship. And yet here you are," Lisa said calmly, "with 500 ships surrounding one small vessel. If we're so weak, why do you need so many ships to defeat us?" Captain Sullivan stepped closer to Lisa's station. "What are you doing?" he whispered. "Something I should have done a long time ago," she whispered back. Then she spoke louder, addressing the alien fleet again. "I'm waiting for your answer, Admiral. Are the mighty Kithara afraid of one human woman?" The insult hit home. Lisa could see Vexthal's hands clenching into fists on the screen. The Kithara were proud warriors, and their pride was their weakness. They could not back down from a direct challenge, especially not from someone they considered inferior. "Choose your ground," Vexthal growled. "My champion will crush you like the insect you are." Lisa checked her sensor readings and found what she was looking for. "There's an asteroid about 10,000 kilometers from here. Big enough for a fair fight. 1 hour from now. Your champion comes alone, or the deal is off." "Agreed," the Admiral said. "Prepare to die, human." The communication channel closed and the bridge was quiet again. Captain Sullivan grabbed Lisa's arm and pulled her away from her station. "Have you completely lost your mind?" he said. "Lisa, I've seen Kithara warriors fight. They're 8 feet tall with natural armor and strength that can bend steel bars. They move faster than anything that big should be able to move, and their claws can cut through ship hulls." Lisa looked at her captain and friend. Jake Sullivan was a good man who cared about his crew. He had saved her life more than once during their 3 years together. She hated having to lie to him, but some secrets were too dangerous to share. "Jake," she said softly, "there are things about me that I haven't told you, things I couldn't tell you." "What kind of things?" Before Lisa could answer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper called out from his station. "Captain, the Kithara fleet is moving. Looks like they're setting up a perimeter around the asteroid. They're really going to do this." On the main screen, they could see the alien ships repositioning themselves. One ship, larger than the others, was heading toward the asteroid. Lisa knew that would be carrying the Kithara champion. Lisa, Jake said, turning back to her. Whatever you're not telling me, now would be a good time to share. Lisa reached under her uniform and pulled out the small device she wore on a chain around her neck. It looked like a piece of jewelry, but it was much more than that. The metal was strange, shifting between silver and gold as the light hit it. Strange symbols were carved into its surface, symbols that seemed to move when nobody was looking directly at them. This has been hiding my true nature for 3 years, she said. I've been living as a human, thinking as a human, even feeling human emotions. But I'm not human, Jake, I'm something much older. The device grew warm in her hand, and for a moment the air around Lisa seemed to shimmer. Jake stepped back, suddenly feeling like he was standing next to something very powerful and very dangerous. What are you? He asked. The last of my kind, Lisa said. My people were called the Architects. We built the first starships, created the first interstellar governments, and kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years, until the Kithara decided we were a threat to their expansion. She closed her hand around the device and the shimmering stopped. They hunted us across the galaxy, destroyed our worlds, killed our children, erased every trace of our civilization. They thought they had killed us all. But you survived, Jake said. I was hidden away before the final battle, put into a deep sleep and sent far from the war. When I woke up, centuries had passed and my people were just a legend. I've been hiding ever since, trying to live a normal life among humans. Lieutenant Beth Clark had been listening from her navigation station. Why reveal yourself now? She asked. Lisa looked at the main screen, where the Kithara ships were visible in the distance. Because they found humanity, and if I don't stop them here, they'll do to your species what they did to mine. They'll hunt down every human world, destroy every colony, and make sure that nothing remains of your civilization. 1 person against 500 ships? Tony Rivers said from his weapons station. Even if you're not human, those are impossible odds. Lisa's smile was cold and dangerous. The Kithara made one mistake when they destroyed my people. They never learned why the galaxy was peaceful when we were in charge. They think it was because we were strong, but that's not the whole truth. Then what was it? Jake asked. We were strong, Lisa said, but more importantly, we were smart. We understood things about the universe that other species couldn't even imagine. The Kithara learned how to destroy, but they never learned how to create. She walked back to her station and began preparing to leave the ship. I'm going to teach them the difference. The transport shuttle was ready in the landing bay. Lisa had changed into a simple black uniform with no weapons and no armor. She looked small and fragile compared to the massive alien ships visible through the viewports. Lisa, Jake said as she prepared to leave, are you sure about this? She turned back to him one last time. No, she said honestly. But I'm sure about what will happen if I don't try. Take care of the crew, Jake. If something goes wrong, get them home safely. And if something goes right? Lisa's smile was different now. It wasn't cold anymore. It was the smile of someone who had been carrying a terrible burden for a very long time and was finally ready to put it down. If something goes right, she said, the galaxy is about to remember what justice looks like. The asteroid was a dead piece of rock floating in the darkness of space. It was about 2 miles across and covered with gray dust that had been undisturbed for millions of years. Lisa's shuttle landed gently on the surface, kicking up small clouds of dust that settled quickly in the low gravity. She stepped out of the shuttle wearing her black uniform and breathing through a small device that gave her air. The asteroid had no atmosphere, so their fight would take place in the vacuum of space. Lisa looked up and saw both fleets watching from a safe distance. Hundreds of ships from both sides were recording everything that was about to happen. The Kithara shuttle was much larger than hers. When it landed, the ground shook under Lisa's feet. The door opened with a hiss and the alien champion stepped out. Warlord Goktor was the largest Kithara that Lisa had ever seen. He stood almost 9 feet tall and weighed at least 600 pounds. His gray skin was covered with thick armor plating that had grown naturally from his body. His arms were as thick as tree trunks, and his hands ended in claws that could cut through steel. His head was shaped like a hammer, with 4 yellow eyes and a mouthful of teeth like broken glass. Behind him came 3 other Kithara, probably his assistants or witnesses. They carried strange devices that created a circle of energy on the asteroid's surface. The circle was about 50 feet across and glowed with a soft blue light. The arena is prepared, one of the aliens announced through their communication system. Combat will continue until one fighter yields or dies. No weapons are permitted except natural abilities. Lisa walked to the edge of the circle. She looked tiny next to the massive alien warrior. Goktor studied her with his 4 eyes, then made a sound that might have been laughter. "This is their champion," he said to his assistants. "This little creature? I could break her with one hand." "You're welcome to try," Lisa said calmly. The alien witnesses moved back to a safe distance. Goktor stepped into the circle, and the ground shook again under his weight. Lisa walked to the opposite side and faced him across the glowing boundary. "Any last words, soft meat?" Goktor asked. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks falling down a mountain. Lisa reached into her pocket and pulled out the small device she had shown Captain Sullivan. The metal chain sparkled in the light from the energy circle. She held it up so everyone could see it clearly. "Yes," she said, "I have something to say." Then she crushed the device in her hand. The change was immediate and terrifying. The small piece of metal crumbled to dust between Lisa's fingers, and suddenly she was no longer hidden. Power flowed through her body like electricity, waking up abilities that had been sleeping for 3 years. Her muscles grew larger and stronger. Her bones became denser and harder. Her skin took on a metallic shine that reflected the light from the energy circle. Her hair began to glow with its own inner light, and her eyes became bright blue stars that burned in the darkness of space. But the physical changes were nothing compared to what happened around her. The space near Lisa began to bend and twist in impossible ways. Geometric patterns of pure energy wrote themselves into existence around her body. The asteroid's gravity shifted, pulling in different directions as she moved. The dust under her feet began to arrange itself into complex mathematical formulas that hurt to look at directly. The Kithara witnesses stumbled backward in terror. One of them was screaming something in their alien language. Through the communication channels, Lisa could hear Admiral Vexthal's voice, high and panicked. "Impossible," he shouted. "The architects are extinct. We made sure of it. We killed them all." Lisa's voice, when she spoke, sounded different now. It had harmonics and overtones that made the very air around her vibrate. "You killed my people, yes. All but one. I've been waiting a very long time for this moment." Goktor, to his credit, did not run away. Instead, he roared a battle cry and charged across the circle, his massive claws reaching for Lisa's throat. What happened next was not really a fight. Lisa moved like liquid lightning, flowing around the alien's attack as if she had known exactly what he was going to do before he did it. Goktor's claws, which could cut through ship hulls, met Lisa's bare hand and shattered like glass against diamond. The alien warrior spun around and tried to hit her with his other hand. Lisa caught his wrist and squeezed gently. The sound of breaking bones echoed across the asteroid's surface. Goktor screamed in pain and tried to pull away, but Lisa held him easily. "This is what you feared," she said, her voice carrying across multiple dimensions at once. "This is why you sent your fleets to hunt the last of my kind. You knew that even one architect could unravel everything you've built." She released his wrist and stepped back. Goktor fell to his knees, holding his broken arm against his chest. His 4 eyes were wide with terror as he stared at her. "My people built the foundations of galactic civilization," Lisa continued. "We created the first laws that govern space travel. We established the first treaties between different species. We built a peace that lasted for thousands of years." Around her, the geometric patterns grew more complex. The asteroid itself began to change, its gray surface becoming smooth and metallic. Strange structures grew from the rock, reaching toward the stars like the fingers of a giant hand. And when you decided that peace was inconvenient for your expansion, you destroyed us. You scattered our cities, burned our libraries, and murdered our children. You thought you had won. Lisa walked closer to the fallen warrior. With each step, reality seemed to bend around her. The space between them folded and twisted until she was standing directly in front of him, even though she had only taken 3 steps to cross 50 feet. "But you made one mistake," she said, reaching down to touch Goktor's forehead with one finger. "You never asked yourself why the galaxy was peaceful when we were in charge. You assumed it was because we were strong, but that wasn't the real reason." The alien warrior tried to speak, but no sound came out. Lisa's touch had paralyzed him, not with pain, but with the sudden understanding of exactly how outmatched he was. "The galaxy was peaceful," Lisa said, "because we made it impossible for wars to happen. We didn't just build ships and weapons. We built the underlying structure of reality itself. Every star, every planet, every asteroid in this sector was carefully placed and maintained by my people." She looked up at the watching fleets. her glowing eyes visible even across the vast distance of space. "You thought you were conquering empty space, but you were actually living in our garden. We've been gone for 1,000 years, and the garden has grown wild. But I'm still here, and I remember how to tend it." Gaktor made one last desperate attempt to attack her. He lunged forward with his good arm, trying to grab her throat. Lisa caught him effortlessly and held him suspended in a web of crystallized space-time. He could not move, could not speak, could barely breathe. "Yield," she said simply. The proud Kithara warrior, who had never been defeated in hundreds of battles, looked into Lisa's burning eyes and saw the death of everything he had ever known. He nodded once and she released him. He collapsed to the ground, defeated not just in body but in spirit. Lisa looked up at the alien fleet hanging in space above them. "Your champion has yielded," she announced. "The terms of our agreement are now in effect." Admiral Vexthal's scream of rage echoed across every communication channel in the Kithara fleet. From the bridge of his flagship, he watched his greatest warrior kneel in defeat before a creature that should not exist. The impossible had happened, and now everything he believed about the universe was crumbling around him. "All ships, target the asteroid," he commanded. "I don't care about the agreement. Destroy her now before she can use whatever power she possesses." 500 Kithara warships turned their weapons toward the small asteroid where Lisa stood. Energy cannons that could destroy entire cities began to charge up. Missile bays opened, revealing thousands of warheads designed to crack planets. The combined firepower of the fleet was enough to turn the asteroid into dust and scatter it across space. But when they tried to fire, nothing happened. The weapon systems were working perfectly. The energy was building up correctly. The missiles were armed and ready, but somehow none of it could reach its target. The space around the asteroid had become something else entirely, a maze of folded dimensions that bent and twisted in impossible ways. "Targeting systems are malfunctioning," reported the weapons officer on Vexthal's ship. "We can see the target, but our computers can't lock onto it." "Then fire manually," the admiral shouted. They tried. Energy beams lanced out from the Kithara ships, brilliant streams of destruction that should have turned the asteroid into vapor. Instead, the beams curved around their target like water flowing around a stone. Some of them looped back on themselves, creating spirals of light that hung in space like deadly artwork. Lisa stood at the center of it all, no longer looking human at all. Her body had become something made of starlight and mathematics, a living equation that rewrote the laws of physics simply by existing. The geometric patterns around her had grown into complex structures that reached across space itself, touching each of the alien ships with invisible fingers of force. "Your weapons cannot touch me," she said, and her voice reached every Kithara in the fleet simultaneously, speaking directly into their minds. "I am rebuilding the space around us according to my will. In this region, I decide what is real and what is not." Admiral Vexthal felt something he had never experienced before in his long life of conquest. Fear, pure absolute terror that made his hands shake and his breathing rapid. "What are you?" he whispered. "I am the last architect," Lisa replied. "I am the keeper of laws that your species has forgotten. I am the guardian of a peace that you destroyed, and I am very, very angry." The space around the Kithara fleet began to change. Stars shifted position in the sky, rearranging themselves into patterns that formed words in the ancient language of the architects. The patterns spelled out the names of every species the Kithara had conquered, every world they had destroyed, every innocent life they had taken in their 1,000-year rampage across the galaxy. "You call yourselves warriors," Lisa continued, "but warriors fight other warriors. You are not warriors. You are predators who prey on the weak and defenseless. You destroyed my people because we stood in the way of your appetite for conquest." One by one, the Kithara ships began to lose power. Not all at once, but slowly, system by system. First their weapons went offline, then their shields, then their engines. The crews found themselves trapped in floating metal boxes, completely helpless. "Please," Admiral Vexthal said, and the word tasted like poison in his mouth. He had never begged for anything in his life, but he could feel the power surrounding his fleet, and he knew that Lisa could destroy them all with a thought. "We will honor the agreement. We will leave this system." "Oh, you'll do much more than that," Lisa said. Her image appeared on every screen in the Kithara fleet, and when she spoke, reality itself seemed to lean in to listen. "Your empire ends today, not through destruction, but through justice. She gestured with one hand, and information began flowing directly into the minds of every Cathara in the fleet. Not just words or images, but pure knowledge that bypassed their conscious thoughts and wrote itself directly into their memories. They saw their history from the perspective of their victims. They felt the fear and pain of every species they had conquered. They experienced the grief of parents who watched their children die in Cathara raids. "You will release every enslaved species," Lisa commanded, and her words carried the weight of natural law. "You will return every stolen world. You will rebuild what you have destroyed and heal what you have damaged. This is not a request. This is reality rewriting itself around you." Admiral Vexthul tried to refuse, tried to order his fleet to resist, but the words would not come. Every time he tried to speak of conquest or dominance, his voice simply stopped working. The concepts themselves had been removed from his vocabulary. "And if we refuse?" he finally managed to ask. Lisa's smile was terrible and beautiful at the same time. "Then you will learn why my people were called the shepherds of reality. Your ships will forget how to fly. Your weapons will forget how to fire. Your homeworld will forget how to support life. I won't destroy you, Admiral. I'll simply edit you out of existence." The changes began immediately. Across Cathara space, thousands of light years away, slave worlds found their chains dissolved. Conquered species discovered that their Cathara overseers had simply vanished, leaving behind empty ships and automated systems. The ships themselves began broadcasting a message in every known language. "The architect has awakened. The galaxy remembers justice." On the Cathara homeworld, the massive monuments to conquest and domination crumbled into dust. The gladiatorial arenas where prisoners had been forced to fight for the entertainment of their captors filled with flowers that grew from nowhere. The palaces of the ruling class transformed into hospitals and schools. "You're changing everything," Vexthul said in wonder and horror, rewriting history itself. "I'm correcting it," Lisa replied. "My people spent thousands of years building a civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect. You spent 1,000 years tearing it down. Now I'm putting it back together." Captain Sullivan watched from the bridge of the Defiance, his mouth hanging open in amazement. The woman who had played poker with his crew just days ago was reshaping the fundamental structure of galactic society with a wave of her hand. "Lisa," he said over the communication channel, "what happens now?" She turned toward the human ship, and for a moment she looked almost like her old self again. "Now we go home, Jake. Earth needs to know that they're not alone out here, and that they have friends in places they never imagined." The Cathara fleet began moving away from the asteroid, but not under their own power. They were being gently pushed by forces they couldn't see or understand, guided toward their distant homeworld where they would begin the long process of making amends for their crimes. "This is not over," Admiral Vexthul said, as his ship was carried away. "There are other threats in the galaxy, other enemies who will not be swayed by your power." "I know," Lisa said calmly, "but they will have to face something they haven't seen in 1,000 years. A galaxy that remembers how to defend itself." The geometric patterns around her began to fade as she slowly returned to her human form. The complex structures she had built from pure energy dissolved back into empty space, but the changes she had made to reality itself remained, spreading outward like ripples in a cosmic pond. "The architect's vigil is not yet ended," she whispered to herself, repeating words that her people had spoken for millennia. "The garden still needs tending." 3 hours later, Lisa Martinez sat in the medical bay of the UES Defiance, looking completely human again. Dr. Amy Foster ran her scanner over Lisa's body for the 3rd time, shaking her head in confusion. "Your readings are completely normal," the doctor said. "Heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity, everything looks perfectly human. But I saw what happened on that asteroid. You changed into something else entirely." Lisa managed a weak smile. "The human form is just a shell, Dr. Foster. My real self is something much older and more complex. But this body is comfortable, and I've grown attached to it over the past 3 years." Captain Sullivan entered the medical bay, followed by the senior staff. They all stared at Lisa like she was a dangerous animal that might explode at any moment. She understood their fear. In the space of one afternoon, their understanding of the universe had been completely turned upside down. "Is it over?" Jake asked. "Are the Cathara really going to change?" "They don't have a choice," Lisa said. "I've rewritten the basic structure of reality in this part of the galaxy. Conquest and oppression are no longer possible for them. Every time they try to harm an innocent species, the universe itself will stop them." Lieutenant Dan Cooper stepped forward nervously. Lisa, I have to ask, are there others like you? Other architects who survived? Lisa was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, she finally admitted. I've been searching for survivors for centuries, but I've never found any. As far as I know, I'm the last of my kind. That's a terrible burden to carry alone, Dr. Foster said softly. Yes, it is, Lisa agreed. But today, for the first time in 1,000 years, I feel like I'm not carrying it alone anymore. She looked around at the human crew members who had become her friends over the past 3 years. My people believed that civilization works best when different species cooperate and learn from each other. Humans have shown me that this dream is still possible. Captain Sullivan sat down in the chair next to her bed. What happens now? Do you go back to being our tactical officer, or do you have bigger responsibilities? Both, Lisa said. The galaxy is healing, but it will take time for the damage of the past 1,000 years to be fully repaired. I need to guide that process, make sure the new peace is stable and lasting. But I also want to keep learning from humanity. You've reminded me why my people thought this dream was worth fighting for. She stood up from the medical bed and walked to the viewport. Outside, space looked different now. The stars seemed brighter and there was a sense of order that hadn't been there before. The cosmic garden was slowly returning to the way it had been designed to be. I'm going to need your help, she continued. Earth's government needs to know about the changes that are coming. Other species are going to start reaching out to humanity now that the Kythera threat is gone. You'll need to be ready for that. What kind of changes? Jake asked. Lisa smiled, and this time it was a happy smile instead of a scary one. Good changes. Trade routes that have been closed for centuries will reopen. Scientific knowledge that was lost will be recovered. Species that have been hiding from the Kythera will come out and join the galactic community again. She turned back to face the crew. Humanity is about to discover that the universe is a much more interesting place than you realized. There are peaceful civilizations out there that have been waiting for the chance to share their knowledge and culture with new friends. Lieutenant Beth Clark looked excited. Does this mean we'll finally have faster-than-light communication? And better medical technology? And maybe even solutions to climate change? All of that and more, Lisa said. The architects built a network of knowledge that connected every peaceful species in the galaxy. I'm going to start rebuilding that network and humanity will be welcome to join it. Tony Rivers, the weapons officer, looked worried. But what about other threats? You said yourself that there are other dangerous species out there. There are, Lisa admitted, but they'll find that the galaxy is no longer defenseless. The species that the Kythera conquered are free now, and many of them are warriors in their own right. More importantly, they'll have me watching over them. She walked back to her friends and took Captain Sullivan's hand. Jake, I need you to take a message to Earth Command. Tell them that humanity has just become part of something much larger than one small planet. Tell them to prepare for the most exciting chapter in your species' history. Dr. Foster was still studying her scanner readings. Lisa, I have to ask one more question. You said you've been hiding among humans for 3 years. How long have you actually been alive? Lisa thought about it for a moment. Time works differently for my people than it does for yours. In human terms, I'm probably about 50,000 years old, but I spent most of that time in suspended animation waiting for the right moment to wake up. The crew stared at her in amazement. 50,000 years was longer than all of recorded human history. That's why you always beat everyone at poker, Dan said suddenly. You've had 50,000 years to learn how to read people. Lisa laughed, and the sound was pure human joy. Actually, I learned to play poker from you humans. My people never had gambling games. We always knew exactly what the other person was thinking, so there was no point in trying to bluff. Captain Sullivan stood up and extended his hand to her. Well, 50,000 years old or not, you're still the best tactical officer I've ever worked with. If you're willing to stay on as part of this crew, we'd be honored to have you. Lisa shook his hand firmly. I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be. She looked out the viewport again, watching as the first ships from newly liberated worlds began to appear in the distance. They were coming to see the architect who had awakened, the last guardian of an ancient dream of peace. Besides, she added with a grin, someone needs to teach these new civilizations how to play poker. The bridge crew laughed, and for a moment, the enormous weight of cosmic responsibility seemed a little lighter. Lisa Martinez was still the last of the architects, still the keeper of ancient wisdom and terrible power. But she was also a friend, a crewmate, and a protector of everything good in the universe. The UES Defiance turned toward home, carrying news that would change humanity forever. Behind them, the galaxy began to heal, guided by the gentle hand of someone who remembered what peace looked like. In the depths of space, reality itself seemed to sigh with relief. The architect's vigil continued. But for the first time in 1,000 years, she was not keeping watch alone. The odds had been 500 to 1 against a single human woman. They never stood a chance against the last gardener of the stars.